Hello and welcome back to the Game Room. This week we are taking a look at the Quarry by Supermassive Games. This is the spiritual successor to Until Dawn, which was a game I covered back in 2018. Absolutely loved it. It's a 80s horror slasher movie, but not all that meets the eye. Now, this is the third game by Supermassive Games. They had a second game called Man of Medine, I believe, that is more psychological thriller, I think, less so slasher. I didn't pick it up. I wasn't that interested in it, but I do know that in that game is when they first introduced the couch co-op and the abilities for other people to be in control of the decisions. And then the Quarry kind of went back to what made Until Dawn work. Now in Until Dawn, minor spoilers, you think that the killer is a slasher villain, but then it turns out to be a supernatural threat. In this game, the Quarry, you pretty much know you're dealing with a supernatural threat from the beginning. In this one, it's werewolves. But there's also a threat of some hillbillies, so kind of like the hills have eyes or things of that nature. And they all come together and make a culminate in this 10 chapter story that has you controlling, it's 9 controllable characters, but really it's just 8, and 2 of which you almost don't see at all for a large portion of the game. But of the 7 other camp counselors, you end up staying an extra night at this summer camp, which at the beginning of the game, you have Laura and Max who show up a day early, get pulled over by the cop who says, no, you can't be here. You got to go to the hotel. And then at the end of the game, them staying an extra, like the reason why is because it's a full moon. You can't have the people there when the full moon because there's werewolves about and shenanigans are afoot. So, obviously, it's up to you to save these people throughout the night. It's your standard, Walking Dead style, Telltale style gameplay, but Supermassive has its own spin on it. The quick time events are handled very sparingly and very well. Generally, you have to push a direction on your thumbstick. And then one of the big complaints I had from Until Dawn were these sections where you had to essentially hold your controller, because it could detect, because of the gyroness, it could detect if you went like this or this. So you had to hold it completely still when you were holding your breath. And it, either based on the controller itself or just the difficulty of doing that, that was probably one of the more difficult things to do in the entire game. In the Quarry, you just hold X, and you hold X until you think it's safe. Much better system, way better system. Another nuance that the Quarry brings in, at least compared to Until Dawn, is it gives you the opportunity to not do things, much more so. So you'll have the opportunity to hide or not, or to interfere or not, or to shoot somebody or not. Now, sometimes you want to. Unfortunately, I got one of the... Now, here's the other thing. A lot of the characters, unlikable as hell. Almost every single one of them is unlikable. The one character that's very likable is Abby, and of course, that's the one who I got killed very viciously with a ripped off head. And yeah, sucks. I didn't plan on that. In my playthrough, I did not do all that well. I ended up losing, of the 9, I think I lost 4 of them, and I did not end the curse. And of the 4, the ones who survived, they still, one of them was maimed, lost his hand permanently. The other one is a werewolf now. And yeah, I did not have the greatest. It was a good storyline. It worked out well. I had the whole Jurassic Park trap him in the fridge. But as far as who lived and who died, I had a lot of needless deaths. Much different than my Until Dawn playthrough, but no less enjoyable. Problem being, these games are very hard to replay. I know you unlock the death rewind mode after you beat it, but the issue I have with all of these choose your own adventure games is it feels like the decisions you make don't really ever have an impact, because yes, you might get someone killed and then you lose them in a later scene, but there aren't that many options where it's like, oh, if you do X, then you go to the river. If you do C, then you go to the dam. No, you always end up at the river. It's just that you go one way to the river or the other way. Like the big major story, like Emma will always get stranded on the island. Jacob's always going to be running around in his underwear the entire game. What's-her-name's always going to get infected as a werewolf. Nick's going to get infected as a werewolf. Story beats are always the same. It's just a matter of how they resolve. And because the game has so many slow-paced walking scenes and dialogue options that don't really matter much and things of that nature, it makes a repeat playthrough, by yourself at least, not so enjoyable. Now, they did introduce the movie mode where I guess you can just watch the characters play the game and you can have them all die or all live, so that's pretty cool. Between chapters, you meet the fortune teller who's there's more to her story too. She actually is involved somehow, not just this weird out of kind of like the guy from Until Dawn who was just in between the scenes. Now this one makes a little bit more sense. She will give you readings of the tarot cards you find throughout the different chapters, and you can see a glimpse of a possible future. And sometimes you can barely even understand what the glimpse in the crystal ball is telling you. And honestly, I feel like those glimpses may have hurt me more than helped me. And you can only choose one glimpse. So if you find multiple tarot cards, you can only select one tarot card to be shown the way. And it's just a lot of fun. A lot of fun, especially because I picked it up for $20, which was on sale. I know Walmart did it, and then Amazon did it at $20. And I've seen it fluctuate all over the place. I almost bid on it at 40, almost bid on it at 30, 20 is where I was at, and that's where I really bid on it. And that's kind of how a lot of these game sales and game purchases go nowadays. Unless, I mean, God of War, I really don't see myself buying a full-priced game ever too much. I mean, God of War, I got my money's worth. Elden Ring, I got my money's worth. But this game, $20 worth, well worth it. Anything other than that, no. Just because it is hard to want it, because I was so bummed losing the characters I lost, but I tried to restart the game and it just is so arduous and all the tension is gone. Like the first time you play it, you're walking, you don't know when you could die, you don't know what could happen, but as you know where the beats are going, like, oh, well, I know this like, because they have in chapter 7, they have you do a flashback sequence to see what happens to the people from the prologue. And that also, I feel like, was one, I mean, maybe because I had just gotten one of my characters' heads ripped off, the first character I lost, it really had me bummed and wanting to progress the story. But going backwards in time at chapter 7, I felt was also very much slowing down the story. Other than that, though, well done. If you're a fan of these type of games, or even if you're not, it's still a very fun story to watch. And if you love 80s horror movies, cheesy, schlocky horror, it's not even that schlocky, but really, just be aware, most of the characters are assholes. They really are. Yeah, the whole reason you're stuck there is because this one guy sabotages the car. You have the social media influencer is annoying as hell. You have the this one guy who's listening to a podcast who's just unneedingly distant all the time. Another one who thinks he's Ryan Reynolds. You have the cheeky Asian girl who, she's all right. I don't think I have any complaints about her, but the other ones are just all like, I mean, she doesn't do much. She didn't do much because she's only around Jacob, and Jacob's the freaking loser who gets dumped and sabotages everything. Is the reason why we're there. And then Laura Laura's the whole reason why the damn werewolf escapes, and Max is just, I don't know, he's just nobody. But some of the Hacketts are interesting. I like the cop, and David Arquette has a cameo, so that's cool. Anyways, that's what you get for this week, guys. Quarry's a decent game. Pick it up, play it. It's so nice getting a hold of you. Take care.